final score, Wycombe Wanderers 0, Wrexham 1. And before we begin talking about something as trivial as football, let's firstly get our perspective right and say it's wonderful to hear that the Wrexham supporter who was taken ill at Adams Park appears to be making a recovery. That is wonderful, and well, I think the whole incident put things into perspective, didn't it, in terms of football. Football's great, but as Jurgen Klopp supposedly said, it's the most important of the unimportant things. And yeah, it really cleared that out, made us see it crystal clear. A huge game like that, but it just was unimportant once somebody's health was at stake. The Wycombe players, fans, and officials, stewards, everyone involved, hats off to them. They are a classy club, Wycombe. They genuinely are, and they do look to give you a decent welcome. And yeah, intention's one thing, but they put those intentions into action, and you could clearly see just how good they are. So well done to them for that. The gesture of the Wycombe fans, the players, coming out after the break for the supporters to get attention and applauding the Wrexham fans, I thought was very, very impressive indeed. And well, clearly it was absolutely not the only one. So well played, Wycombe. Any pleasure I now get in talking about us winning a huge match at Wycombe's expense, please, Wycombe, don't take it personally. You're the good guys. But anyway, Wrexham going into this huge game, equal on points with second placed Wycombe. Wycombe were ahead of us on goal difference and had a game in hand. That loss at Reading was costly, and so therefore we needed to try and bounce back if we could. And well, we began well. First 5 minutes or so, we were playing with intensity and putting real pressure on Wycombe. But as the half wore on, it started to feel quite a lot like that Reading first half. Wycombe started to get the ball moving, and they started to put us under pressure. Now, we were aided pre-match by the fact that the league's top scorer, Kone, was unwell and couldn't start the game, which was a huge bonus for us, let's be honest. Although, to be fair, they still had a lot of threat up front. Daniel Udo shifted into the middle, ex-Shrewsbury striker, and I thought he played very well. He was giving us a lot of sort of physical challenges. Fred Onyedinma on the left-hand side was in a real battle with Cleworth. It was a constant sort of full match shirt. They were clearly both doing it. But then started giving Onyedinma the free kicks. And this led to a problem for us. And Cleworth wasn't the only person that this happened to. But we were conceding a lot of set pieces in our own half. And Luke Lee is a superb left-footed deliverer of set pieces, and so we were getting under more and more pressure because he was putting balls in that were there to be attacked and were difficult to get rid of. On the right as well, Gareth McCleary, very experienced Jamaican international, he was very, very good in his use of the ball and was looking threatening, trying to get around the sides. So they were causing us issues, and Cameron Humphreys, who's a talented player on loan from Ipswich, who's playing behind the front three, was popping up in different situations, and they started to get a grip on the game. We had to dig in. Again, the defence did pretty well because there weren't many really clear-cut chances, to be honest, from what Wycombe did, but they did make opportunities, and we weren't making chances in the first half. The first opportunity, 10 minutes in, Humphreys, a lovely turn down the right-hand side, stands across in. Onyedinma does well to get there first on the penalty spot. He's got a pretty clear header. Doesn't quite get the connection right. It's heading it towards the corner. Sharp movement by Okonkwo to go to his left and catch it. A sort of catch that a save that Okonkwo makes look easy. If you haven't got his quick feet and if you haven't got his long limbs, you might be stretching to reach that one, but Okonkwo makes it look pretty straightforward. 5 minutes later, another moment to danger Udo. So it was really full of energy, working hard, tackles Dobson in at Wrexham's half, carries it forwards, and then drills a shot from outside the box again. It's straight above Okonkwo, and you'd expect him to save it, but it's travelling, And Okonkwo does well to stretch up and just control it and grab ball and pull it in. A real clear chance comes in the 19th minute, and it's another Lee free kick won by Onyedinma, leaning into Cleworth, sweeps it in, and Joe Lowe, the Welsh international centre back, gets up well, glancing header, a cross goal from around the penalty spot again, just wide. And the final chance of the half, again, is from a Lee free kick in midfield. He drops it in nastily, just dropping in behind the line. O'Connell backpedaling does well to head it partly clear, but it falls again to Udo on the right side of the box, and he brings it down and drills it in powerfully and on target. O'Connell does ever so well to get the block in because Okonkwo's unsighted, so if it gets through O'Connell, it's going to take a really good save low to his right for Okonkwo to deny it. Wrexham, yeah, it was getting frustrating. We were falling into that same trap as we did against Reading, where Smith is looking isolated up front. We're knocking stuff forwards to it, and the two centre-backs, Taylor and Lowe, are good. And in the first half, at least, they were handling him well. Taylor was getting right tight up onto Smith, restricting his ability to climb, so that Taylor could then jump over the top of him and win the headers. And Smith was chasing a lot of poor service. And of course, to be fair to the bloke, he was chasing and chasing and chasing and wouldn't give up, but we weren't really constructive enough. Longman had some moments down the right in the first half. McLean was struggling to really get forwards as well, and Wycombe, as the half wore on, like I said, took control. So at half time you're thinking, okay, this is worryingly similar to Tuesday, but we improved massively and put in an excellent second half performance. Our quality on the ball is much, much better. I mean, that midfield of James, Dobson and Rathbone was sort of made for this sort of game. The first half was a war of attrition, really, which Wycombe won in terms of executing their game plan better. Both sides were pressing extremely hard, and therefore when they won the ball, were subject to counter-pressing, and there was no space in the middle of the pitch. You'd think Dobson, Rathbone and James would suit that really well. The first half they didn't win the battle, in the second half they indubitably did. Dobson, despite a long spell of treatment early in the half when he really looked in some distress, was able to complete the 90 minutes and did well. One of the stewards at Wycombe before the match said to me, Dobson always plays well at Wycombe. And yeah, he did. He really had a big second half. The three of them were winning the ball well, were using the ball constructively. We were still knocking long stuff to Smith, and it wasn't always great, but Smith just gives you that shot that you might get on the end of something, and Longman really got into the game. We seemed to be a little bit higher on the pitch. We were getting to Wycombe better, and as a result of that, those long passes, maybe not so long, a bit more accurate, and we started to cause them problems. The first one was your classic chasing after scraps and making something of it from Smith. Cleworth lifted the ball down the flank into the box. It's Smith against the two centre-backs. Lowe obstructs Smith to give Taylor plenty of time to get the ball back to a keeper. But Smith is too strong, wriggles round the side. Taylor underhits the attempt to back pass, and Smith lunging in. Oh my word. Keeper comes tearing out, and Smith from about 7 yards out just gets his toe to it first, does brilliantly, prods it beyond the onrushing goalkeeper. It hits the post and bounces back out. Real moment of drama. Fabulous play by Smith. Brilliant scavenging. Terrific desire. And of course, unfortunately for him, the sort of making a chance out of nothing, which will probably encourage us to keep launching balls at him and hope that he can do it on his own. But we're now on top and playing with a good tempo. We're winning challenges, we're getting to second balls first, and we're causing them real issues. Longman, again, causes a problem, bursting down the right-hand side, stands it into the box, and Smith is challenged from behind in the air by Lowe. And at the time, I reserved judgment because I hadn't had a proper sight of the replay. But having now had a good look at it, it's a penalty. The ball's played long by Longman. Smith jumps, Lowe jumps and barges into his back. It's a penalty, to be honest. And as Andy Morrell said in the commentary afterwards, when Smith got an identical decision go his way, when there was no difference between what Lowe did in the box and outside the box, Andy quite rightly pointed out, yeah, the difference is it's 30 yards out, so the ref's willing to give it. but it was a penalty. It really was. So Wrexham, unfortunate maybe there not to get a breakthrough. We keep coming back at them. Longman again, breaking down the right-hand side, doing really well. Gets around the side of the defence, plays in the early ball to try and put Smith one-on-one as Smith surges through the middle. Smith gets goal side of Lowe, but he can't quite reach it properly to control it as it spins across. If he had been able to, he's all on his own in the box. It carries to the far post where there's a 50-50 between Grimmer and McLean, and unluckily for Wrexham, it's one of those rare 50-50s and McLean can't win. Grimmer, who had a good game at right back, crunches him with a tackle and the danger is gone. I wondered at the time if that was also worth a shout for a penalty. Again, it's Lowe, who I wondered whether he'd nudged Smith, because Smith was unable to receive the ball, partly because he was sprinting and then instantly was off balance after making contact with Lowe. Having looked back at it again, firstly, it's outside the box, so it's not a penalty. Secondly, is it a red card? Because he's undoubtedly the last defender. I don't think so. He's put. I mean, don't get me wrong, he has made contact with him. So arm reaching out and grabbing, and not grabbing his Smith's arm, but knocking it. But it's not a huge amount of contact. It'll be hard to spot, I think, as well, first time. So I think Wrexham can have no complaint about that, I don't think. Although we did ask for the decision. It would have been a huge decision had it been given. Another set piece for Wycombe gives them an opportunity. Lee standing it up to the far post. Taylor, who was attacking these set pieces well, jumps in with Brunt. And then Wycombe have a shout for a penalty. And it's an interesting one, you know. Brunt jumps with Taylor. Brunt's basically putting his hand on Taylor's shoulder. The ball comes through and lands on his hand, which is resting on Taylor's shoulder. I mean, if you look at the Carabao Cup final and the handball that wasn't given in the box against Kieran Trippier, and which the pundits were united in saying was never a penalty, despite the fact that his arms are stuck out, they're saying it's still a natural position for to keep his balance. Well, I suppose by that definition, Brunt is naturally jumping with his hand forwards, so it's not a penalty. But for my judgment, I think it is a penalty. Firstly, natural position, grabbing hold of somebody, that wouldn't have been given, but nonetheless, is that a natural position? Leaving yourself up on a striker's back, and you've stuck your arm out. You see the clear size of the ball for about 30 yards, and it still hit your hand. To me, both penalties, the one on Smith and the handball by Brunt. So in a weird way, it's evened out. I strongly suspect this one is that the officials didn't see it, because it would be hard to see. But yeah, they're both certainly good shouts for a penalty. And Wrexham immediately make changes. Initially, straight after the ball goes out, Fletcher comes on for Rodriguez. 20 minutes left now. 4 minutes later, Elliot Lee comes on for Ollie Rathbone, who's been carrying an injury for the last couple of games, of course. And then comes that horrible incident where, again, huge credit to everyone involved. Somebody is taken ill in the Wrexham end. The Wrexham fans are desperately trying to get the ref's attention. Unfortunately, it's a corner to Wycombe at the other end of the pitch. We've sent everyone back to defend. Wycombe have sent every out player to up the pitch. They haven't left anyone on the halfway line to ring us in. And fortunately, the fans are making a lot of noise. Also, the Wycombe fans who can see what's happening also are making a lot of noise, saying stop the game. And also, Will Norris, the Wycombe goalkeeper, admirably, is high up the pitch because he's like the sweeper in case it gets cleared. He realises what's going on and he starts really going for the ref and saying, come on, stop the game, stop the game. And the referee realises and the game is stopped. And it was a horrible experience. As the ambulances eventually were able to come. 47-minute pause in the game, including 10 minutes where the players warmed up again. And then it resumed. And, again, it's trivial what happens next because football's not important compared to somebody's life. But let's talk about it anyway. Wrexham have a potential issue straight away because it's a corner to Wycombe. Obviously, coming straight cold into a corner is fraught with threat. Lee, as I said, has got great delivery. And indeed, it comes to pass. Wycombe have their most dangerous moments of the match. Lee puts a good ball in. Taylor meets it well. Powerful header. And O'Connell makes an excellent clearance off the line. Otherwise, Wycombe scores straight after the restart. But incredibly, we do score us straight after the restart because, a minute later, Longman does ever so well, picks up on the right-hand side. He's looking to make things happen. He cuts inside and he carries the ball the width of the pitch. Works McLean in on the left. He stands it into the box. Fletcher gets his head to it around 15 yards out. He can't control his header, but it drops for Matty James, who does what he did last Saturday. Remember that wonderful self-made volley? He takes it and drills it, and it hits Lee in the head. He goes down like a sack of spuds. I am genuinely surprised the ref didn't stop play, because it's clearly a head injury. Lee stays down. The ball ricochets to Fletcher, who does really well. Again, it's a difficult one to control. It's coming too high for him, but he does well just to keep it alive in the box, heading it across the face of the 6-yard box. And Smith, wonderful technique. Very tight angle outside the left post, and he hits the meatiest of volleys, which flies in across the keeper and into the net to give Wrexham the lead. I was right behind it, and I thought he'd hit it with such beautiful technique that it swerved, because it moved markedly. It looked like it was going wide at the far post, and it moved markedly. I'm looking at it again. I think it may just take a deflection, to be honest. But it's great forward play by Smith. Whichever thing happened, Wrexham have the lead. The fans, who were phenomenal throughout, I mean, really, the noise they were making before the game was superb. And throughout the second half, they just didn't stop, and going absolutely crazy. And Smith, we can already see, has got a nice line in passionate celebrations, and he's absolutely loving it. And Wrexham have the lead. It must be said as well, Wycombe don't complain about the game being not stopped for Leahy, and he does get up and doesn't need treatment. But I'm genuinely surprised the ref, when he saw him go down like that. I mean, my immediate thought was stop the game. So I'm really genuinely surprised the ref didn't think the same. After, like I said, the first half being a war of attrition, the second half being Wrexham getting on top, the game after this long break perhaps naturally enters a third phase, which is unlike the first two. It is really open and end to end. I mean, I guess Wrexham scoring has made it that way, although two big goal-mouth incidents in the space of a minute and a half after the restart also tells you something has changed. And 4 minutes after Wrexham's goal comes the big moment which could have earned Wycombe a draw. Long ball forwards. O'Connell makes the one mistake he makes in the match, backpedaling, loses it. Udo picks it up, finds McLeary, lovely pass by him. He spots that the substitute Berry is unmarked on the left hand side. He's come on for Onyedinma, who in the second half is invisible, if I'm honest. Cleworth does a really good job against him. So McLeary plays it in. Berry is one-on-one with Okonkwo, takes it first time, hitting it back the direction it's come from to try and wrong foot the goalkeeper, and Okonkwo makes an outstanding save low down to his left, just pivoting and getting his hand down. It's absolutely superb. Frankly, the gather is good as well, because he pushes it out wide and manages to get up and launch himself and land on it before anyone can do anything. Berry could have done better. Perhaps he hasn't put it right in the corner, but he struck it pretty well, and he's looked to do the right thing, sending the keeper back the way he came from. But it's a save of the highest calibre by Okonkwo, and Wrexham see it out pretty comfortably, to be honest. O'Connor comes on for Smith in the last minute just to really stiffen things up. He goes into midfield with Lee playing off Fletcher, but Lee's more dropping off than not. But we see it through pretty comfortably in the end, to be honest. And it's an enormous win, isn't it? An enormous win. I mean, after the Reading game, if we'd lost this as well, we would be right in a spot. But as it turns out now, we've got ourselves into a really nice position, which, well, I suppose technically it's not in our hands, because if Wycombe and us win all our remaining games, it's down to goal difference, and Wycombe's is slightly better at the moment. But it is in our own hands, isn't it? Let's be honest. If we can keep winning, we are, we're going to go get that second place. It's just a case of having a strong finish to the season. Right. Looking through the performances, outstanding from Okonkwo. That huge save at the end was great. He was dominant in the air, and he made some sharp saves in the first half. You'd expect Okonkwo to make them, but yeah, he did extremely well. The back three, I thought, did really well. I mean, in the first half, we were under great pressure. O'Connell had that Little mistake at the end that led to the bigger Conco save, but that was about it. He was again very strong in the centre of that defence. He had the physicality of Udo, who he's got a bit of pace and has got that physical strength too, and he did well against him. Cleworth on the right hand side, because he managed to come out the right side of that battle in the second half. Onyedinma really disappeared out of the game, and Cleworth was also able to get the ball forwards and come forwards a bit more, as he does, of course, to such good effect. Lewis Brunt came into the team. I think his pace was useful. I think they've looked at the speed of Wycombe strikers and really thought that Brunt was probably a player they need to put back in there, and it was useful. He covered around the back really well. Got some important interventions. Did some of those spring-heeled leaps to win headers as well. It was a good return to the first team for Brunt. The wing-backs, Longman did really well, I thought, especially in the second half. I mean, defensively, when he first came, I was sort of suggesting, this guy's great going forwards. Is he so good defensively? Well, he's not had any problems the last few games defensively at all. He's followed up that performance off the bench on Tuesday by really looking threatening, puts a lot of good stuff forwards for Smith to work on, and put crosses in as well, and looks, like I said, good on ball, very secure on the ball. On the other side, McLean had a solid defensive game and wasn't able to do as much going forwards. He did play one nice ball in, which we weren't able to convert, but yeah, he had a solid match at left wing back. In the centre of midfield, again, Matty James, I thought, had a good game. Once more, sensible with the ball, under the press again, like in the Reading game. He did some good things with it, despite being under pressure. Rathbone wasn't quite as influential as he could be, but he made a great challenge right at the start of the match, just to announce his presence to Wycombe's midfield. But again, lots of energy. He's not quite right, is he? I don't think at the moment, but he's still putting in really good shifts. And Dobson, I mean, he had the scary moment when he was dispossessed and Udo had a chance to score, but he did put in a real battling performance in the centre of the pitch as well, and played his role in us turning the game round in the second half. So yeah, again, as that steward said, he plays well against Wycombe. Up front, I mean, again, Rodriguez didn't quite get involved in it as much as he'd like. There were some nice moments for him, but once more under pressure in midfield, he had to drop back to help his midfield out. And then Smith, excellent again. Didn't give him that much to work with, but he still managed to make chances out of it. And the one time he was given a good opportunity, he took it. As for the substitutes, O'Connor on too late really to be able to make much comment on him. Fletcher came on and he made a difference, I thought. He was making the ball stick. He was getting closer to Smith than Rodriguez was able to. So it was a brave move to try and win the game rather than just see how to draw. And yeah, kept the ball alive well for the goal. Elliot Lee came on and he was lively as well. I was pleased with Elliot Lee to see him just adding a little bit of craft into midfield. So yeah, great win, great performance, and we're in a strong position now. We just need to make sure we can see it through. Huge test coming up on Saturday, but hey, it's on Saturday. We've got a midweek off. Hallelujah. What a miracle. Great stuff from Wrexham and a fantastic outcome with a final score of Wycombe Wanderers 0, Wrexham 1. I'm Mark Griffiths from Wrexham AFC.